This is my Note 5 review, and in this part I'll be taking a look at specs and performance of the Note 5. So on the front of the phone you have a 5.7-inch diagonal display. It is a Super AMOLED display. The resolution is 1440 by 256 pixels, and that gives you a PPI of 518 PPI, so 518 pixels every inch. Now this display is a Quad HD display, so it's only a 2K display. It's not quite a 4K display, but if you compare it to, I think there's only one phone on the market, a Sony phone that recently came out. It is a true 4K display, but to be honest, with phones this size, with these type of screens, you're not going to notice the difference between 2K and 4K because the phones are so small, you can't really tell. So if you compare this to the Sony 4K one, you're not going to know the difference between displays and which one's true 4K. True 4K resolution on both phones, both this and the Sony phone, which is true 4K, you're not going to notice the difference. So don't feel like you're getting a lesser phone or not a good display just because it's not a 4K display, because the one on the Note 5 is an awesome display. You really don't need 4K for a display. So this is a little bit better than a 1080p display. So it is 1440p. So it is way better, or a little bit better than a 1080p display. Now the only way you would really know when 2K, 4K really do make a difference is going to be on an actual monitor or a TV or a projector. That's when the resolutions are really going to matter. But with screens this size, you're definitely not going to matter. Now, a lot of people said that Super AMOLED displays actually make the colors unrealistic, or they saturate the colors a little bit too much. In my experience, I actually like the oversaturated display a little bit more than a non-saturated display like a regular LCD panel. Super AMOLED display is going to make everything pop on the screen, especially when you're watching a lot of videos or looking at pictures. Everything's going to pop. Now it may not look true to life, like the colors may not look true because they're a little bit oversaturated, but I personally like it and it does make things pop. So overall, the Super AMOLED display on the Note 5 is a beast at 2K resolution. And next off, for the platform, you are running Android 5.1.1 Lollipop, so you are running the latest Android operating system. This is, of course, going to get Marshmallow in the near future. It should be coming out in December or January or February, somewhere between there. These phones should be rolling out with Marshmallow, so you'll definitely get Marshmallow on the Note 5. And then your chipset is an Exynos 7420. So the 7420. Now this is not a Snapdragon processor like the last Note 4 was. Does that really matter? No, it really doesn't matter, because the Exynos or the Exynos processor is a beast processor, just like the Snapdragon processor. So they did go back to the Exynos processor. If you were wondering, they're not using the Snapdragon processor anymore. And then you're also running a 2 quad cores, so this is an octa-core processor phone. You are running one quad core processor at 1.5 gigahertz, and you're also running another one at 2.1 gigahertz, so that equals a octa-core processor. And this is running the latest at 4 gig of RAM, so you are rocking 4 gig of RAM on this phone. Now, a lot of people said TouchWiz, even though this year TouchWiz has 40% less bloatware than it did before. Even with 40% less bloatware in TouchWiz, it's still supposed to use a lot of RAM. Unfortunately, so far, in my average use, I have really not found it to where it was too bad on the actual RAM usage. I mean, it does take maybe, I think, 1 or 1.5 gig of RAM for TouchWiz. I'm not going to lie to you guys. It does take something for TouchWiz. It is a pretty hefty 1 gig or 1.5 gig for the TouchWiz overlay on Android. But overall, so far, I haven't really found any lag with the processor or any lag with the octa-core processor or 4 gig of RAM. So this thing is definitely future-proof. If you're wondering, if you want a phone that's really going to be future-proof for the future and you want the latest specs and everything, this phone right here is going to have the latest and greatest specs on the market. And I'm not going to lie to you, so far, no lag, no nothing. Will that change in the future? Of course. Usually, when you get a phone brand new, it doesn't have any lag in it, or you won't notice any stuttering. but then years down the road or months down the road, when you install new updates or you install more apps, it tends to get laggy. But here, I haven't found it laggy at all. I'm not gonna lie. I will update you down the road, maybe November or December, if this phone is still laggy or if it does get lag. I will let you know. I'm not a Samsung fanboy. I'm not going to lie to you. If this phone has lag, I'm definitely going to tell you. But as of right now, you can see right now, it almost has like no lag on the screen. It is very lagless, which is a very good thing. Now, one other thing that I do have to mention in terms of the performance, a lot of people said the new Note 5 actually closes apps randomly in the background, so it'll force close your apps. And so far, to be honest, I haven't really had that problem. But to be honest, I never really checked it out. I usually don't run 8 apps or 6 apps at once. I don't know who's running 6 or 8 apps at once. I just think that's way too many apps to be running at once. But I will make another video on that and show you if it's actually doing that. But right here, I'm not going to show you. But what I can tell you is I've had really no problems with forced closed apps where apps were closing randomly. I've never really had that. But to be honest, I've only ran like 3 or 4 apps at once, and it did a perfectly good job at running 3 or 4 apps at the same time. I never had one crash or close. Of course, you'll still get apps randomly crashing, but that's an Android thing. It's not a Samsung Note 5 thing. Every Android smartphone is going to have problems when it comes to randomly crashing apps. That's just the nature of Android, because there's so many Android phones on the market. You're not going to get one phone that's not going to crash apps, because apps can't be made for one specific phone. There's like a lot of Android phones on the market, even dating back to 2011, 2012, 13. There's even old ones, so they all have to make apps that still work on older phones too. So that's just a thing that you're going to see with every new phone coming out, even in the future, unfortunately. Overall, I'm very happy with the performance of this phone. It is a beast, especially when you're playing games too. If you love playing video games, this phone is going to be a beast of a processor for playing all your games. If you're a big mobile game user, you're going to love the processor on here. I have played some of the latest games. I have played I think one of the new Asphalt games on here, and I have played Modern Combat 5 and stuff like that, and those have been a beast and a pleasure to play on this device. They have been very great. The only thing is, just like any other Android phone on the market, you will get heating issues. I mean, well, the back will heat up, but that's because you're playing an intensive CPU game that's really gonna use all the CPU power. So that's to be expected with any phone on the market where the back of the phone heats up. But that's because you're playing a graphically intensive game. It does actually also heat up a tiny bit when you're watching videos, but it's really not noticeable when you're watching videos. Only when you're playing games or when you're really going to notice it really heat up. And then for the memory, you have no memory and you have no battery. The battery on here, I did forget to mention, is 3,000 milliamps, and a lot of people said 3,000 milliamps is not a lot. If you compare it to the Note 4, the Note 4 had 3,220, I think, for the Note 4, and everyone was disappointed when they went to a sealed battery and only 3,000 milliamp battery. But for my usage, I am able to get around 8 hours a day with my usage, so that really tells you a lot. A lot of people on the internet are getting 3 to 4 hours, but for my usage, I'm getting 8 hours easily with my usage. That's just me, depending on what kind of user you are. You make it a lot. Like, if you're watching videos nonstop, then you're probably only going to get 3 or 4 hours realistically. But if you're a light to medium user, you'll probably get around 6 or 7 hours of battery. But for me, I am able to manage 8 hours. And let me tell you this, I am a heavy smartphone user, and for me to even get 8 hours out of this thing is very, very impressive. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. 8 hours is pretty impressive considering I'm on my phone all the time, checking Twitter, checking Instagram, Facebook, doing everything you would normally do on a phone, and I have no problem with this phone. And that's with also a little video watching, and that's also with medium to light game usage on my phone. So that really tells you a lot. I'm pretty much a power user when it comes to smartphones, and 8 hours is pretty impressive for the Note 5, which everyone says got okay or average battery life. So even my Note 2 actually only had a bigger milliamp per hour battery, which was 3,200 again, just like the Note 4. I'm coming from the Note 2. And even then, I'm still not having problems with this battery. I've never really had a problem with this battery. And I've had this phone for 2 weeks now, and I've had no problems with the battery on this phone. And there are also going to be other ways too if you want to extend the battery or you want to charge the battery on the go. I will be showing you a separate video if you want to know how to keep your battery fully charged when you're on the go or extend your battery life and things like that. I will be showing you another video. It won't be in this video, but I will be showing you another video if you want to see that, of how to keep your battery lasting longer or always charged up pretty much. And then you also got cameras on here. Now I'm not gonna show you any demos of the camera. I want to really take some good pictures for you and show you the quality of it. I don't want to give you some bull crap, and I don't want to lie to you. So I'm going to be taking really good pictures in a different video. I will have a separate video as well to show you all the camera stuff and what the cameras actually take pictures. But on the back, you got a 16 megapixel camera that shoots 4K video. You also got a front-facing camera that shoots 5 megapixel pictures, and it also shoots 2K on the front. It shoots 1440 on the front-facing camera at 5 megapixels. And I forgot to mention the memory. The memory comes in 32 or 64 gig. So if you're buying this phone, you might as well buy 64 gig, because there's no options to have a micro SD card on here since the back's non-removable. But again, I don't find that a problem, because there's other stuff you can buy that actually makes you have more memory, or you can also drop your files into your computer, or drop it into like one of those cloud storage banks. You can actually buy cloud storage banks for your house. I'll go ahead and talk all about that in a separate video. Also, how to have more memory if you're worried about the memory. There are a lot of different ways you can extend the memory past 64 gig if 64 gig is not big enough for you. But what I would recommend was definitely go with the 64 gig, even though it's going to cost you a little bit more, because these are sealed up. You cannot add a micro SD card to them. And then for the features, it does have your standard of Wi-Fi A, B, G, and N, and it also has the new AC. So if you have a new router that supports AC, you are future-proofed for the future. You do get AC, the faster Wi-Fi speeds. And these phones also support LTE Cat 9, and later on next year, you're supposed to be able to get faster 4G LTE speeds, and this phone is future-proofed to where when they release the LTE Cat 9 signal, you are going to be able to use that band on your phone, so you will get the faster 4G LTE speeds on your phone. Now, I don't know if there's any other smartphone on the market that's going to have the LTE Cat 9, but I do know this has LTE Category 9, so you will get the fastest speeds on the market, and I don't think no carrier is going to be releasing it until early to mid 2016. That's when they're going to be releasing the LTE Cat 9 speeds to everyone. And the battery, like I said, is 3000 milliamp. So overall, my experience with the Note 5 has been very, very good in terms of specs and in terms of performance. I've had no performance problems with the Note. I will mention one thing. I'm not going to lie to you. I will mention one thing. There's been times when I turn on my Note and the brightness has gone all the way down to where I cannot see the display, and I thought the phone was actually out of battery. It's done this 2 times on me randomly. It's randomly turned the brightness all the way down. But in 2 weeks, it's only happened 2 times, and it's random times 2, which really suck. And I always thought the phone was out of battery, which in case I had like 40 or 35% left in the phone, and I always assumed the battery was out, but it's not. So keep an eye on your Note 5. If you own a Note 5, you may get that problem. I'm not quite sure if you get that problem, but I've been having that problem. But luckily, it's only happened 2 times. So keep an eye out on the brightness. If it randomly turns down your brightness all the way and you can't see this display anymore and you think your battery's out, because that's what I've experienced only 2 times. It kind of bugs me, but since it's only 2 times, it's not a big deal, and it's not a big deal breaker for this phone. It's just 2 times randomly. I don't know why, and I think I'm the only one that has this problem, but I do have this problem. And another thing is, today Samsung just released a new firmware update for the Note 5 and the S6 Edge Plus, and I think even the S6, depending on what carrier you're on. I'm on Verizon, so I can't tell you if any other carrier actually has this, but we have this new firmware update for the Note 5 and S6 Edge Plus, and basically what that allows you to do is it allows you to use Samsung Pay, just like Apple Pay or Android Pay. You're able to put your credit cards on here and actually use them around town. The cool thing about Samsung Pay is it'll work with any credit card machine. Not all of them, but it works with like 98% of them compared to Apple Pay or Android Pay, which is really cool. But you don't get it when you buy the phone. You will have to do an install on the phone. And I'll let you know how my Note 5 is running after I actually install it. My dad actually has it installed right now. He installed it. He has the S6 Edge Plus. He installed the firmware update, and so far there's been no lag on his phone, because you know usually when you update your phone months in the future, then your phone starts getting laggy. Sometimes you have battery problems, sometimes you have Wi-Fi problems, sometimes you just don't have, your phone's not as stable as when it came out of the box. So I will update you if you have the Note 5 and you're worried about the updates messing your phone up. I will let you know in the future. So far, my dad just installed it today because our Verizon just rolled these out to both of our phones. And so far, my dad installed it maybe 2 hours ago, and so far he's had no problems. But you still can't know if you're going to have problems until a week or a couple days after. So I'll let you know if there's going to be any lag on the Note 5 or S6 Edge Plus after these installations. But you do need to install the update or the firmware update if you want to use Samsung Pay. If you don't care about Samsung Pay, then you can pretty much disregard this. Along with Samsung Pay, Apple is, I mean not Apple, excuse me, I really do apologize. Samsung, along with this update, Samsung is supposed to be bringing performance stabilization. So it's supposed to make the Note 5 and S6 Edge Plus run a little bit faster, a little bit lagless, not have as much lag or any lag. It's supposed to improve the performance just a little bit. They're just minor tweaks, but the big thing is Samsung Pay. And overall, I've been pretty happy with the performance and the speed of this phone. I've really had no problems with it. Overall, I'm very happy, and I've had really no lag on the phone. I had no apps really crash so far. Overall, I am very happy with the speed and performance of the phone. Like I said, this is the latest and greatest in terms of specs and hardware. So if you want the best and greatest specs on the market, this is about the best specs you'll get on the market in terms of a smartphone. If you're looking for the best specs, this is the phone to get right now. Nothing else will beat it into the future. And anyway, peace out. I'll see you guys later in my next video. I'm out.